Euromaxx highlights. Coming up on the show... In the fast lane, Euromaxx reporter Sharon Berkal puts the pedal to the metal. Top talent, Euromaxx meets violinist Anne-Sophie Mutter up close. And Swiss sensation, the city of Basel is a magnet for art lovers. Euromaxx highlights, and here's your host, Robin Merrill.
And a very warm welcome from Berlin. The Formula One Circus has now arrived here in Europe, so we thought we'd find out what it's really like to drive a fast racing car. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let me have a go. I think they've seen my driving. So the lucky winner was our more glamorous reporter, Sharon Berkal, who got to burn up the rubber at Germany's most famous racetrack.
For decades, the legendary Nürburgring racetrack was considered one of the most challenging in the world, even though the professionals make it look like child's play. For around €1,000, amateurs can find out just how hard it really is. With Formula One, it's a little bit like football. The best player always sits at home on the couch in front of the TV, and for Formula One, everyone with a valid driver's license believes he could take the turn even faster. What's the truth about this assumption? And could I outrun Michael Schumacher, who won twice here on the Nürburgring? We will see with my first Formula driving course. But before I can put the pedal to the metal, I go to the Nürburgring Museum to meet my driving instructor Andreas Gulden. He's a former professional racing driver himself, and I'm a little alarmed when he tells me and the other 8 budding drivers that motor racing is a dangerous sport. At the racetrack, we're sent off to change into fireproof overalls, a must for any fledgling racing driver. Lucky me that overalls like this are one of the fashion trends for this summer. I'm not really sure about the shoes though. Now I've got the right gear. It's time to get behind the wheel. I feel more nervous than I would before a first date. This car here is one of the smallest of all Formula cars. It's a 140 horsepower and drives up to 240 kilometers per hour. Now, you could be a little bit patronizing and say, oh, my car can do the same, this is nothing. But this little beauty just weighs 450 kilograms. And on the bottom line, it's all about kilogram per horsepower. If you would transfer this ratio to an ordinary car, it would be like a 450 horsepower. My own car is doing it at 40 horsepower. You have to be under 2 meters tall and weigh less than 120 kilos to fit in this driving seat. Climbing in is a bit like getting into a bathtub. I have to admit there is a lot of adrenaline running through my veins. And basically I'm just able to move my arms and my feet, and the rest of me feels like a sardine in a can. With the difference that this can is able to speed up from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 4 seconds. But I plan to take things a lot slower than that. The car and I need to get to know each other first. This is me. This is the others. And here, the others and me. My first feedback shows there's room for improvement.
It's important at the beginning just to switch through the gears so you know how the transmission works. When you're on a straight section, feel free to accelerate more so that you really have to brake ahead of the bends. Don't just roll up to them, but really brake. But it's no problem. That was your first lap. You did great. Relax and allow yourself to get into it.
After what feels like another 100 laps, we meet to discuss tactics. The others on the course come from all over the world. All of them are motorsport fans and men. I am the only woman on the course. Is that the usual, or do you usually have women?
The percentage is extremely low. Maybe about 5% are women, which I think is a real shame. It's great working with girls. They often take a more intuitive, sensitive approach. That's important because a racing car is like a living thing.
Seeking to apply just that kind of sensitivity, I start my last lap. I want to prove that practice makes perfect.
How about a race, Sharon?
Racing is banned for insurance reasons, but we're certainly not slow. You reach the corner, accelerate and slow down as you approach the bends at some 150 kilometers an hour. I can feel every slight bump in the road in my neck. Any lapse in concentration now could prove fatal.
Driving the usual way has nothing in common with driving a Formula car. This is proper sport and it's really, really exhausting to keep the car on track while driving at that speed. It was a great day, but I know for top performances you need just more than a driver's license.
I'm awarded a certificate to remind me of my experience at the Nürburgring. Should I ever forget it? I graciously ignore the comment that I drove the best woman's time ever. And to round off the experience, at the end of the day, I crack open a bottle of champagne, just like a real Formula One champion.
Now, I've sat in one of these chairs, a design classic from Marcel Breuer. It doesn't look it, perhaps, but it's actually very comfortable. However, this one would be difficult to sit in because it's actually a miniature. This one is produced by the Vitra Design Museum, but the market for design miniatures generally is growing. We visited some very high-end dolls' houses in Britain.
A glimpse inside a dream home. Modern furniture, clear-cut lines. But no one lives in this house because the furniture is only a few centimeters tall. Elaine Shaw of Britain designed the house herself on a scale of 1 to 12. If the house was a normal size, its owners would have all they need to live in it. The ball chair is just one of the design classics with which Elaine Shaw has furnished her 80-centimeter tall miniature house.
It's 3D, it's tangible, you can move stuff around. You can build your dream house, furnish your dream house, and the children are not going to get it dirty. You know, it doesn't matter whether your partner likes it or not, it's yours.
Elaine Shaw builds a lot of things herself. At the moment, she makes little lamps, including tiny wires so the lamps will glow. It often takes several hours to complete even a small-scale object.
I have to be very precise, especially if I'm working with clay, painting things, you know. It's almost like working with jewellery because you have to be very careful. 1 millimetre either side would mean a lot more in real life, and you can see if something's out of scale.
But fans of modern miniatures don't furnish these homes just for themselves. They communicate with each other via the internet. They display pictures of their tiny second homes on photo websites. In many of the photos, it's hard to tell at first glance that the rooms are too small to live in. Elizabeth Laplat, also British, was a jewelry dealer when almost 20 years ago she became one of the first to specialize in building modern miniatures. Every piece here is individually made. Now Elizabeth is building a wooden kitchen. It could take up to 10 days. Her finished pieces of furniture cost up to £900. Elizabeth Laplat is considered one of the best in her field and has customers all over the world.
I had an interior designer who wrote to me and asked me to design her a modern kitchen. And I designed her the modern kitchen and she agreed, and I built it and sent it off to her. And when she got it, she was absolutely thrilled. She said, it's even better than I could possibly have imagined. And she said, I've waited 20 years for this kitchen because she said, I knew what I wanted, but nobody made it. And then you've turned up, and so now I can have my dreams and have the kitchen I've always wanted.
These aren't custom-made, but they have written design history. The miniature collection from the Vitra Design Museum is unique. From the materials used to the design, the little chairs are identical to the originals. On offer are the plastic chair by designer Werner Panton, the knotted chair by Marcel Vandes, and the Vasily chair by Marcel Breuer. And the steel tubing chair by Mies van der Rohe, one of the most important 20th century architects and designers. In 1927, his chair was the first free swinging chair ever made. The models in this collection cost between 100 and 500 euros. Barbara Leuchtenberger is editor-in-chief of 1 zu 12, the leading German magazine for miniatures. So, who are the readers?
They're usually creative people who want to design themselves. In their daily lives, they have little opportunity to do that because they've taken other occupational paths. And so they fulfill these dreams in miniature.
Elaine Shaw studied design. When she furnishes a miniature house, she devotes attention to the tiniest details. The radio alarm in the bedroom gets no reception, but the time can be adjusted.
As a designer, I'm free to design anything I want, and that's a dream for a designer. I could do anything. I could even make cars for this house and textiles, everything. So all kinds of wallpaper, or, you know, completely design something from new, and it doesn't even have to work because it's a model.
Visions of modern homes become reality. Design houses in miniature format. The dream of a perfect house can be fulfilled, albeit on a smaller scale.
Anne-Sophie Mutter is one of the world's greatest violin virtuosos. She actually has a reputation of being quite tough, but the sublime sounds she prizes out of the violin are witness to the fact that she is a passionate and emotional person. She talked to us about her likes and dislikes.
Anne-Sophie Mutter's career spans 3 decades. She learned to play the violin at the age of 5. When she was 13, she was discovered by Austrian conductor Herbert von Karajan. Mutter's career has been the stuff of dreams. Her solo albums regularly top the classical charts, and she's played with top orchestras the world over. How would you describe your personality?
Which one should I reveal? I think I'm extremely caring, reliable, and very funny.
Who's your personal hero?
My violin teacher. She'd been through a lot. She was an older lady and a wonderful musician, a fabulous mother, a great soloist, and a wonderful wife. She could do it all, and I try to emulate that.
What's a big temptation for you?
Chocolate.
What's your life philosophy?
You only see clearly with the heart.
What's your dream?
I have lots, but I won't discuss them here.
What drives you bananas?
Social injustice, racism, nuclear power. Many things.
Describe your perfect day.
A perfect day always involves my children. So doing sports with the kids, just being with Arabella and Richard, and my 2 dachshund pups, that's a perfect day for me.
Barbara Klemm has been taking photos for a top German newspaper since 1970. And her personal archive is a very intimate documentation of momentous events in post-war German history. She has a particular talent of putting subjects at their ease, as you will see in a minute with the artist Georg Baselitz. But first, a look at her amazing photo collection.
Barbara Klemm is a classic photojournalist. She documents only what she finds. And yet her photos tell a lot more. She has a canny eye for the magic moment, when everything comes together. The situation, the light, the composition.
I'm primarily interested in photographing the people and situations I observe as fast as I can without them realizing it. That allows me to capture something that looks like a secret.
Barbara Klemm worked as a photographer for the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung for more than 40 years. She's covered the full spectrum from political events to travel reports and portraits of artists. She was invited to exhibit in museums early on because the quality of her photos was so much better than average for the newspaper business. She's chosen 300 of her best photos for a retrospective.
This one definitely. It's Willy Brandt with Brezhnev during his first state visit in 1973. That was my very first big political assignment. And it was the kind of situation that you never get anymore, because it was just the three of us in this room. I didn't have a journalist pool card, but I managed to get in anyway. It was as if we didn't exist, as if it were just the two of them. They conducted their talks as if on their own, and that's what comes out so well in the picture. Then something I personally really like, in a completely different oeuvre, are the pictures I took while traveling. This is Calcutta in the very early morning. These things, life on the street where you see everything, and the fact that you can photograph this real life without any real difficulty. Of course, only if you are able to be discreet enough and fast enough to catch it.
With hardly any luggage and just a small camera, Barbara Klemm has always traveled light. This time she has an appointment in Baden-Baden with the painter Georg Baselitz. She wants to take his portrait. They've known each other for a long time. Clem photographed him before, 13 years ago.
Sure, nice. Do I get it?
Sure you get it.
Thank you. Where should I pose?
You don't have to pose, but maybe turn a bit towards me.
As if by chance, she directs Georg Baselitz to the spot she's picked out before, and she remains open to whatever might develop.
M47, could it be that?
M7.
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 I know nothing about cameras.
Do you use them?
It's an old-timer, huh?
Yes, it's an old-timer. Do you use it nowadays?
No, I can't operate one.
These days, whatever isn't digital is an old-timer.
Well, I really tried, really seriously. I went out, but it didn't turn out. It was garbage. You don't notice it at all. We're professionals. I'm here doing my job. She's here doing her job. Nothing is strained in any way. I think it's a great relationship.
During their chat, she inconspicuously releases the shutter again and again, while keeping her subject in the mood. Barbara Klemm has portrayed hundreds of famous artists. The actress Helene Weigel, the pantomime Marcel Marceau, conductor Claudio Abbado, and her father, the painter Fritz Clem. She considers this one of her best photos.
I usually don't have more than an hour when I visit someone at home for a portrait, and that's very strenuous. I come out totally exhausted because I conduct the conversation myself while photographing, and I always have to keep the light in mind and what will go into the picture and what won't, and that requires a lot of concentration.
For Barbara Klemm, the process of developing photos is just as important as the photo shoot itself. She makes each print herself. and always has. And she makes prints as often as she needs to get the gray scale perfect.
Yes, this is wonderful. I thought it was fantastic how Baselitz was standing there between his large figures, himself fairly small, but precisely centered among them.
Barbara Klemm retouches even the smallest of scratches on the photos, watching every step of the process. She's persistent, always curious, has a sharp eye for essentials, and is perfectly discreet. Qualities that have helped her become one of Germany's greatest photojournalists.
To the city of Basel, which is right in the north of Switzerland on the borders to Germany and France. So it's a real mix of cultures there. There's lots to see, especially if you're an art lover. The city boasts museums and galleries that rival those of major European capitals.
One of the best views of Basel's grand old townhouses is from the opposite bank of the River Rhine. The city's most striking landmark is the 15th century cathedral. With its red sandstone walls, it dominates the cityscape. Behind it is the Pfalz, a terrace with a magnificent view across the Rhine and surrounding countryside.
This is where Basel's prince-bishops would have come to think and stroll. The plaza also had strategic significance because it's situated at a slightly higher altitude along the Rhine, so you could see if enemies were approaching.
Basel is known as a centre of the arts. Home to some 40 museums and galleries, it's certainly the cultural capital of Switzerland, second to none on the international scene. The most important event on the annual calendar is the Art Basel Trade Fair. It draws the world's top gallery owners and dealers, as well as countless art lovers.
Some 300 international world-renowned galleries are selected every year and represented in Basel during the fair. And around 1,500 artists exhibit their work. It's a huge event, the biggest art fair in the world.
Another attraction is the Fondation Bayerle, located just outside the city. The museum shows the collection of the late Ernst Bayerle, one of the 20th century's most successful art dealers. It features 230 works by modern masters.
All his life, Ernst Bayerle kept works of art that he loved so much he didn't want to sell them. And there came a point in his life when he could afford not to sell them. And that's how the collection came about.
Basel's largest museum is the Museum of Art in the center of the city, with a collection spanning 5 centuries. It includes the world's largest collection of works by Hans Holbein the Younger, one of the greatest portrait painters of the 16th century. Just a few minutes' walk from the old town is Spalenberg, now a lively residential neighborhood. It used to be a busy commercial hub in the Middle Ages. Its steep and narrow streets are lined with exclusive boutiques. The imposing City Hall towers over the market square, another red sandstone building that dates back to the 16th century. Opposite is the Confiserie Schießer, one of the oldest chocolate makers in town. It first opened in 1870.
We use traditional techniques and still do a lot by hand. We also use a lot of old recipes passed down to me by my grandfather and great-grandfather.
There's a lot to discover in Basel, from historic buildings to modern art, and plenty of cafes to relax in between.
And if you're interested in those reports or others from Euromaxx, go to YouTube, type in Deutsche Welle English, all one word, and the choice is yours. That's all for now, though, so until next time, bye-bye.